Okay, Narita, thanks a lot for the excellent talk.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
we can have questions now. Please unmute and ask the questions.
I see two questions in the chat.
Yeah, please. Yeah, you can answer them by reading the chat box question, or Raja can ask Aiswa that in.
Oh, yeah, sure. Hello, Dr. Nirta. It is really amazing talk, and I really like the presentation. And in fact, you are one of the very good teachers who try to explain each and everything, and it's remarkable. I'm just curious about few things because I'm completely naive for this kind of field. I was wondering, like, you are using these Hilliard kind of approach, but when this breakup and other kind of things are happening, it's a diffusive interface kind of approach. So do we bring these micro scale kind of dynamics when it is trying to pinch off, or is it something like just numerical issue like if it is lower than such kind of grid resolution, it naturally goes away from the system?
Right. Yeah. That's how we considered it for now. So we don't have any, any microscopic phenomena right now in the framework. We just increase the resolution so that the interface is well resolved, and we consider the breakup up to a point where so when the droplet breaks, there is the boundary becomes very narrow between them. I mean, during the pinch off stage, a kink appears between the two segments, and after that it separates out. So we consider till the time just before it separates out, basically. And we try to resolve that by increasing the whole resolution of the system uniformly.
I see. But does that have any influence on recoiling of this droplet or maybe any other kind of phase? Like when a droplet is breaking out, and at that local grid level, if there is something like ejection of the droplet pushed away because it's suddenly separated, so there will be the third law kind of dynamics comes into picture, and
so basically we have that because there is a surface tension, between the two fluids. I can basically show one picture. We did see something similar to that. There is a because when it separates out, so this is a coalescence. Actually, this is opposite to breakup, but you can see that it is pulsating after it merges. This is the opposite scenario maybe to what you are implying, but there is a pulsing sort of thing that happens, and that is mainly due to the surface tension, which is a restoring force.
I see.
Yeah.
And other question, what I was wondering is, you have showed about these acceleration statistics in terms of probability density function, and try to say that these smaller droplets compared to the initial turbulence what you plug in the system.
Right.
So the small droplet shows higher intermittency levels compared to larger droplets because smaller droplets get trapped in these vortices, and the small vortices may have intermittent fluctuation. That's the reason you will ultimately connect with acceleration of the droplets also having intermittency. Is that right?
Yes, actually, yes, because when it gets trapped in vortices, so the acceleration, the droplet basically moves around. When it gets trapped, it goes around in a circle.
I see. But how different are these acceleration statistics from the fluid particle acceleration statistics? Are they way different? Are they comparable?
Right. Yeah. To show that, let me show Yeah, let me show a simple. Uh, as, so there is a time series, one
I
second,
see.
time series which I can show. Acceleration. Sorry, just a moment. So it is quite different actually.
I see. But you mean to say that even if I sit on that smallest eddy, which is trying to trap the small droplet, the
Yeah.
acceleration statistics of the smallest eddy is way different from that particle, or perhaps the droplet.
Yes, of the droplet. So basically you are asking that if I have a tracer, say, inside the fluid, how different the acceleration of the tracer is compared to the droplet?
Maybe not just a tracer, but a group of tracers which might sit on that statistically the smallest eddy. Not at viscous scales, but still end of the inertial spectrum.
Okay. Okay. So how different that is from the smallest particle? That is what you were asking. Okay.
In some sense, away from viscous scales, but well below from that energy supplied range.
Okay, Raja,
where
we may go to some other people. Huh? So
Oh,
just
yeah, sure, sir.
So
Just
basically
one-
there is a scaling law, I
I
mean, which scales the, the radius of the droplet with the diameter.
I
This
see.
is the scaling of the variance. So the variance goes as to the power minus 2/3. And, the variance increases as the drop diameter decreases.
I see. Can I ask last question and close that, sir?
let's just ask other people, in case they have.
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
we can
sure.
come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to make it, slightly give everybody a chance. Okay, some other questions, please. I guess there's no other questions. Raja, you can ask, then I'll ask some questions.
Thank you so much. I'm just curious about this work. That's the only reason.
No
And
problem,
also,
yes.
Dr. Narita, will these droplets, when they break up and so on, they may generate wakes behind them and induce additional frequencies around these
Yes.
objects, right? And
Yes.
are these wakes going to change the overall structure of, I mean, like which we usually call pseudo turbulence and so on, so stuff? Are these anyway responsible for these intermittency in the droplets, or we cannot by any means connect these additional frequencies, whatever generated, to that smallest droplet, showing that intermittency? We are pretty sure that this intermittency actually coming because of the intermittency already present inside the turbulence system.
Right. Yeah. So yes, this is a very good question actually. So I have, so we can understand that from the energy spectrum. In the energy spectrum will give us an idea about the different scales when we compare it to with and without droplet.
Okay.
So so suppose suppose this plot, this is the energy, the magenta line is without droplets at the same, so both all the simulations are at the same viscosity.
Okay.
So magenta line is without any droplets. Now, when we have droplets, there is like a forcing. So the, the back reaction term that I showed, that is like a forcing, and that also creates wakes. That is responsible for wakes in turbulence. And so the inertial range gets pushed up a little bit.
Okay.
And yeah, so this is the size of the droplets.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if I understood correctly, on large scale, they may not have any influence, but at small scales, actually these higher wave numbers really pushed to contain that energy, and that's the reason we will have variation in the spectrum. Maybe
Right,
minus
Okay,
yeah.
Rajat,
two
there's a
kind of.
question now. So there's a question I have to interrupt. So okay, good.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think let's go to the next question. Rudion,
Yes.
yeah,
Do
please.
you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. I would like to know, how do you check out that DNS solution you obtain is indeed a turbulent flow? For example, can you calculate energy transfers or whatever to see how good resolved inertial range and everything related to the turbulence? What I mean, do you calculate any fluxes, any type of fluxes, spectral fluxes?
Yeah, so fluxes actually, so we have calculated, so in this case you mean, right, with the when we have droplets in the system?
Droplets or other solutions without droplets. I mean the homogeneous mixing fluids. In any, because you started the second part of your talk, you started from the point that for DNS you need I don't remember 8 months, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
Can you how can you demonstrate that in fact your solution is a turbulent flow? Did you calculate any fluxes to see how good the inertial range is resolved?
Oh, yeah, sure. So the answer is mainly the following. So we have, theoretical derivations from the fluxes, and we use this cascade term, actually this captures all the fluxes. I mean, I have showed the spectrum, energy spectrum. I am not showing the flux in particular, but this cascade term, this comes from the assumption that the energy of the fluid is in the inertial range, and in inertial range there is a 5/3 law. So in the 5/3 law, from there the coefficients are derived.
No, five said or whatever power law does not explain is a turbulence, because the idea of turbulence that you have some certain range of scales where you have self-similar process, right? Like energy transfer. So I would like to see fluxes with a flat flux of energy or if it is a two fluid mixing, then maybe energy of one fluid and second fluid. I don't know, but without flux showing, I cannot trust that this is indeed a turbulent. Okay, this is multi-scale system. I believe, I trust you, and you solve multi-scale problem, of course. But are there any range with a self-similar transfer, scale by scale, cascade, or whatever? Because as you know, the power law can be any, because it depends on many aspects, 3D, 2D, homogeneous, inhomogeneous fluid, I don't know, buoyancy, no buoyancy. So the power law does not tell me anything about how good you approach to ideal picture of the turbulence, Kolmogorov turbulent picture. And without fluxes, this is really difficult to imagine what kind of turbulence in fact you are modeling. This is my point.
Yeah. That is a good point. I mean, for this is a isotropic decaying turbulence. I mean, there is a buoyancy forcing, after that it decays. but we can calculate self-similar spectra for this case, where there is inhomogeneous and there is sustained turbulence. And for sustained turbulence, we can show that the spectra, if we plot the time evolution of the spectra of, say, the Reynolds stress tensor, then that attains a self-similar form in the turbulent state.
Okay,
No,
Narita, let me just
I
rephrase.
think
Okay.
not. The spectrum. Okay, yes, I agree. Spectrum is important and interesting, but it does not tell me how close to the ideal picture of the energy cascade Kolmogorov picture, or not necessarily Kolmogorov, but the idea of inertial range. Because I can get, in fact, I can get any kind of with a specific forcing or condition, I don't know, rotation plus some external, I don't know, mass forces. I can obtain any type of spectra and power law and time dependence. But the fluxes tell us how far you are from laminar flows and how the nonlinear term are. I mean, the importance of the nonlinear term are showing by the fluxes only.
So yes, so we have analytical expression for the flux in the scalar case space. I didn't show it here, but we have that in the
I understand. I saw your equation. I mean, for the demonstration and to convince, for example, to me, I would like to see fluxes. Maybe in your next papers would be nice to see it.
Okay.
Sure. So sorry, I should have included the equations from which I start. That is from a flux balance and things like that. But yeah,
actually,
I see formulas, but I would like to see results. I mean, I would like to see the exact. For example, to me, do you see at least one order of magnitude which can be considered as inertial range, at least one order of magnitude, then it is indeed a kind of turbulence. I mean, the cascade. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for the question.
Okay, just to put the background, so Rodian, Frank and me, we have been working on energy transfers, and so it's quite true that LES, large eddy simulations, people normally plot the profiles, the structures, and the spectrum. But so spectrum can be for, as you said, like for just, you can generate k minus 5/3 or k square or whatever. But unless we also match the flux, we can't be guaranteed that we are modeling the small scale appropriately, nicely. And I just have a look. I mean, these are things which are useful for.
No, I should have plotted the.
And no problem. I mean, okay. Every work, I mean, of course, we have been doing it for many years. Rodian is the expert of that. So, Rodian, you are asking some more, or I mean, okay, let's ask other people. I mean, there's no other hand raised. Okay, so I asked a few questions. So one, I mean, JKB is left the audience, but so for this with buoyancy for Rayleigh Taylor, with strong buoyancy, there will be reasonable. Well, Rayleigh Taylor probably is not all that anisotropic, but with strong gravity, things can get anisotropic. No.
Yes, that is a.
So the K itself, there may be K parallel and K per in here. That in K may be a question mark. Right? Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. That is a very good question. So that is actually I am working on that paper now. So to include the effects of anisotropy in here, but for this we chose this system. I mean, to study anisotropy, an ideal system would be, something like a shear flow, or some a system like that where anisotropy is very prominent. But
No,
in
gravity,
this,
strong gravity can also be anisotropic. Stably
yeah,
stratified
yeah,
flows are also anisotropic.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
shear too, but also gravity itself can be. Please
yeah.
go on. Sorry, I just wanted to go on, please. Next.
Yeah. I mean that I completely agree. But yes, here we try to see how far the model can predict without
Yes.
including
I mean,
that
of course, the
effect,
difficult problem
basically.
bringing anisotropy is a very, very difficult problem. But
Yeah.
yes, it's remarkable that it works. Great.
Yeah, basically in there we what we are trying to do is in the angular averaging thing, we expand the variables in terms of spherical harmonics, different orders in spherical harmonics, and
Great.
with different coefficient. And
Okay.
so to see which coefficient where we can truncate the harmonic expansion so that it includes the anisotropic effect.
Yeah. So we exactly did the same thing for rotating. Well, not rotating. For
Okay.
quasi-static MHD. So indeed, but that was numerical. So we were just quantifying, but closer will be nice indeed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very
Right.
good.
Yeah.
And my other question, I'm not the fluctuating hydrodynamics. I mean, I like the idea, but you want to generate waves coming from thermal fluctuation, is it? I mean, is it what is your objective?
Yes. So
Thermal
it is
fluctuation leading the waves?
So thermal fluctuations. So suppose Rayleigh-Taylor instability generated from thermal fluctuations. So the instability generating from a flat interface, so to speak. I mean, so from a flat interface. So this is important in very small length scale systems. Suppose microfluidic systems where thermal fluctuations are important. Or if even extreme temperatures like plasma systems where thermal fluctuations cannot be dissipated by viscosity.
So my comment is like in thermal convection. Okay.
Yeah.
So thermal convection, though of course we heat the molecule, but what comes out is this large plumes, which are coherent temperature structures.
Right.
So they already become, they're not tiny anymore. It's not that, so all of them, like the which is large scale structure, well, relatively large scale, has a temperature which is higher than the background. And that's how it is rising. So I'm not too sure, well, I mean, I agree with them. This is a good problem, but I'm not too sure that I mean, I always feel that we are heating the plate that supplies energy at large scales. I mean, the whole plate, the plate, and that is creating middle-sized or not the microscopic structures, but middle-sized or tiny structures, but they're not in Angstrom or micro scale. They are basically the Kolmogorov length or even bigger. So I'm not sure. I mean, we can discuss this, but that is my feeling. So
I mean, for generation
but I don't want to discourage you, but I just want to say that large scale structure. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not very clear. Of course, I think it's a.
I mean, I'm just focusing on the range, where yes, there are coherent plumes, but can the instability be generated by thermal fluctuations is the question. So actually there are studies which have shown that the growth rate of Rayleigh-Taylor instability, the growth rate predicted by DNS studies is different from the growth rate that direct simulation Monte Carlo predicts. What is the reason for that? The reason is that the thermal effects during the onset, during the instability onset stage is not considered in DNS.
So I guess there's no more questions, so we can formally close the session.
Okay.
And people can leave. If some other people want to just discuss informally,